This isn't good for the video, Amanda. Stop doing it. I think I'm losing my mind. I'm feeling very, like, I don't know, like, in the mood to move. Hey, welcome back. My name is Amanda. I'm a mixed media artist, and this is going to be my studio eventually, once I put it together. My current studio, the building is actually closing, and in 2 days I have my final studio showcase, which I'm very excited about. And as a way to commemorate the closing of a very significant chapter in my art journey, I have made 4 signature pieces that, man, I am really bad at talking. This is the real me. Okay, so I've made 4 signature pieces that speak to the theme of the event, and the theme is called unCAGE. The whole premise is that I found out in my 30s that I am on the autism spectrum. I'm a high-functioning autist. On the high-functioning end of the autism spectrum, but it is something that I have struggled with, and this show kind of speaks to the challenges and the apprehensions that come from, one, not knowing that you're on the autism spectrum, and then 2, having to function in a place that feels like it's not designed for you, and then the growth that comes from enduring in those circumstances, and then kind of learning about myself and how that has reshaped the lens of why I am the way that I am. So anyway, it's just all kind of stuff like that, and it's a very personal show, and I thought this would be a good way to start going down this path, because I want this to kind of be a snapshot of a greater collection of work that is within the same theme, and my ultimate goal is to find a gallery that is willing to have this collection of work in their space. It's very exciting, and it's very time-consuming, very challenging. I'm apprehensive, but I'm growing and enduring. So let's talk about what I've gotten up to so far this week. It's been a busy week. It's only Wednesday, but I feel like been kind of running a marathon. But we started out Monday with a 15-hour drawing session, painting, and I finished the last piece for the showcase. I'd say finished because I think it's around 90% complete. There are some other things that I would like to do, just like increasing contrast and things like that. I just realized you guys have not seen the last 2 pieces that went into the showcase, and I'm excited for you to see those. So I'll show you a little bit of the process and the final pieces in just a little bit. But so Monday, 15 hours straight, not straight, I took some breaks in there, but 15 hours working on the final piece, and that was all I did on Monday. And then yesterday I spent the day printing. So the printer that I bought after my trip to Artists in Wonderland in May has come in handy, because I was able to print all 4 signature pieces for the event on Friday. These prints will also be available in my shop, so if you're interested, head on over to asylum.com to check those out. Along with the prints, I also made this little booklet. So this little booklet is a synopsis of the show. The signature pieces that were included in the show are available here as mini prints, and I've also included the essays that were written to accompany each piece that kind of go into why this piece was created. So if you weren't able to come and you wanted to see maybe what the show was all about, that's a way for you to get a glimpse. And the other thing I worked on yesterday was these. So these are the bookmarks that will accompany each book. They're, fairly simple in design, but I didn't want them to overshadow the beautiful books that I made. So they're just hand decorated with the graphite putty. So what I did was I took this little stencil and I put some bookmarks behind it and used my graphite spray mixture that I made to mark the bookmarks. And then I add some like little spatters of graphite because is tradition at this point. And then laminate each one, put a cute little tassel on it, and it will be included with each book. So that is everything that's going into the shop update. If you are interested, please head over to asylum.com and pick up some sweet merch, including the shirt, the sweatshirt. It is sweatshirt weather, so I'm all about the sweatshirts. And now I'm distracted. What am I doing? Like, what was I about to say? If you can't tell, I'm still a little bit overwhelmed, but that's par for the course. So I need to finish these bookmarks. I have a bunch that I made last night that I need to put into laminating pouches. I want to finish those. Oh god, there's so much to do. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And now we're on to the process for the two pieces that you haven't really seen yet. This piece represents apprehension and is titled "We'll Be Home Soon." The goal for each one of these pieces was for me to experiment in one way or another to create marks that would enhance the overall piece. So normally I would make the marks and then kind of let them guide my imagination in whatever way it wants to go. But for this series, I already had some imagery in mind, and I wanted to make marks that would bring it to life. Good morning. It's 7 a.m. After 7. On a Thursday? I think it's Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday. Looking for my supplies. We're getting ready to start marking. It is so early, man. I don't like this. I have a list of ideas that I want to experiment with as I develop this style, so that's where there's a bit of twine involved. I cut a length of twine, soaked it in water, and let it go for a little swim in graphite. Ultimately, I didn't like the marks that the twine made. I think if I try this again in future, I'll go with something maybe a little softer and more absorbent to get some more interesting marks down. but it wasn't horrible. I managed to work with it regardless. And from here, it was just about rendering the image into the marks. You guys see this space right in there, right where this hand is? I think that is killing everything. It's just throwing everything off. So I'm getting ready to try to add some more marks to it without going overboard. And it is a very delicate operation. So I thought you guys might want to see this because I could potentially ruin it right now. As I can't even get a good angle. The frustration burns deep within, though she cannot trace its source with certainty every time. Feelings of inadequacy fueled by the distaste of a generation. Anger that stems from a seeming inability to bear the weight of negative emotion. Trapped inside a labyrinth of despair, the only gasps of breath she gets, she uses to vent her rage. Trepidatious. There is a current of danger electrifying the air. It's not the threat of death that looms, only the quiet fear that someone will discover she is merely an empty husk. Her breath cold, her fire snuffed by one she can no longer remember. The dread comes in waves which distort the sounds of her cries. It's okay. We've been through this before, and somehow we've made it through every time. Given space to accept the complexity of our nature, we always manage to find our way in the end. We just have to work together, and we'll make it home. So the main thing that I wanted to experiment with in creating this piece was using that spray bottle as often as possible to create different textures, different marks, and just kind of see what all I can do with it. So at the start of my mark making, I tried to follow the lines of my sketch with the spray bottle to the best of my ability, not really caring if it matched completely, but as you can see here, having those marks kind of follow the sketch line ended up adding some really interesting dimension, I feel like, and movement to the piece. So I like it, and I will continue to experiment with it and employ it in future pieces. Here I was trying to use my left hand, and then I was like, no. So yeah, just experimenting with the spray bottle and seeing what we can do. One of the things that I'm curious about with this is making the marks darker potentially. So I'm gonna see if I can do that. Obviously I was taking off some of it with the paper towel. I didn't want it to be super dark in some spots, but it would be nice to be able to achieve some level of contrast with that in the future. But once again, I used the masking tape to kind of preserve some of the white areas on the page and keep them free from any marks that would obstruct the image from being clear. And aside from that, the other thing that you'll see me do here in a little bit is go around all of that tape with my dirty little graphite fingers and make sure that the edges of the tape are really clear, because sometimes even if there's like the spray, like the dots all around the tape, you go to pull off the tape and it doesn't even look like there's a piece of tape there. So I made sure to go around to each edge of the tape that I wanted to be visible and kind of smudge some graphite around there so that when you peel the tape off, it creates a nice clean contrast for what was underneath the tape. And you'll see me do that here in a second, but that was another thing that I enjoyed. And this is probably my favorite part of the process, is creating these little drips. And I haven't made drips on one of these in a minute, and I knew going into this piece that I wanted that to be a focal point. And so I kind of designed the piece with these drips in mind, and they did not disappoint. You'd be surprised how difficult getting it to do that is. I feel like the surface tension of the paper really fights any urge for the liquid to run off the page. So here's where I was doing the rubbing of the tape. So I don't really have anything else to say about the process for this one. Aside from my dirty little graphite fingers, I did use a blending stump to help me with that. And then I had to rotate the canvas here because there was no way I was going to be able to draw that face completely sideways like this. I was struggling. Anyway, that's all. Please enjoy.